Happy Saturday. Happy Saturday. It's been a while, hasn't it? It has been a long time. How's everyone doing? Good? Good. I have to tell you that around here, it was kind of like trying to figure it out all over again. It's so crazy. Good morning, everyone. Hey, Zoe. Hey, Margaret. Hey, Mel. It was. I said to Mario, I go, it doesn't seem a little weird? Like, it's kind of like we're doing this for the very first time because, well, if what is it? What do they say? Use it or lose it, I think is what it is. So I think that's how we kind of felt. Like we haven't done this for a while, so it's kind of figuring it out. So how is everyone? Hey, Diana. Hey, Kim. How is everyone? Just checking out the chat. I know. Well, it doesn't surprise me that I forgot. That's how it is. My brain is very, as you guys know, it's very compartmentalized. I focus on what I'm doing and everything else. Like once the file drawer closes, it's done. Hey, Kath, Amy, Linda, Carol. A lot of people in here. Hey, Jana. Happy Saturday. Mario's over there checking to make sure everything is good, and I think everything is good. It's a little weird for us. Hey, Sharon. Hey, Stephanie. It's weird because, hey, Taylor, because we're trying something new. Obviously, we're not only doing this live, but we're going to take on a studio tour, so that means we need to have like a mobile camera. So we think we figured it out. We will know in this live, won't we? So how's it going? Hello to London. Hey, Joe. Oh, look at that. He's got it all set up. He's good. So, yeah, it's been... I know, he's got space. It's totally different. There he is. Oh, see, he's coming in from the wrong side. It's weird, huh? I like that.
Everything is different.
Hey, listen, I like that. So, yeah, it's been good. I mean, I'd like to say that we took a break, but we really didn't take a break. We've been really busy. A lot of deadlines, obviously. Hey, Michelle. Everything scrapbook and stamp. Hey, Heather. Hey, Luis, I can't say that we took a break. We really didn't. We were working on deadlines, a lot of stuff for seasonal stuff, not only coming up this year, but also already started working into next year, believe it or not. But throughout all of that, I think it was time to just organize the studio. It was one of those things where, like, I don't know. I had that itch, right? Hey, Tifa. Hey, Sherry. Hey, Kathleen. It was one of those things where it's like you're in this space, but you're not really doing anything creatively. And it's like I just started going through stuff. And I know you guys know that as makers, that kind of once you do that.
Yeah, but the more you organize, then the more you make.
That's kind of how it was. I think at the end of all of it, I was very inspired, which was good because I had to do some make deadlines in a matter of 5 hours. And I was like, oh, I need to make some stuff.
So you did like blitz over 1 hour.
Yeah, I did about 7 projects in just 5 hours that I had to do, but it was good because I was organized and I had everything and I knew what I had and all of that stuff, so it is good. Hey, Vicky.
When you walked right into the closet and you got the die you wanted in a second.
And I actually said that. I'm like, wow, I think for the first time ever my dies were organized, so it's good. So yeah, I'm going to just take you on a tour. Hey, Belinda. Hey, Julie. Hey, Amy. So here's the thing about like studio organization, and I say this because
back over there to get my
you feel a little weird over here, don't you? Yeah. I know that's how it is. Thanks, everyone. Thanks. I did find goodies. I always find goodies and stuff. And I'll talk about that as I go around the studio. Hey, scrapbook.com. Hey, Kuber. It is one of those things that, when it comes to your creative space.
That's better.
He feels better. You could just tell he was weird over here. He was like, he didn't know where to put your hands. I saw you were like, yeah. When it comes to your creative space, like, it is about you. It's about what's going to work for you. And so I didn't plan on doing a studio tour, really. I mean, I was just sharing organization on social media because that's what we were doing. I think sometimes, when you don't hear from someone for a while, you're like, whoa, what's going on? And I really didn't have anything to share because I was working on new stuff. And I wasn't really working on any makes. But what we were doing kind of behind the scenes was organization. And I started sharing that and people were like, oh, I can't wait for the tour. And it's a little weird because it's just our everyday, this room. But then again, I, like you, love to see what other people do and how they maybe organize stuff to get ideas of what's going to work for you. So that's really what I hope you guys take away from today. Just have fun about checking out this creative space and know that, when it comes to studio organization, there is no right way or wrong way to do it. It has to be what works for you.
Best for you.
Yeah, I hope to give you some suggestions because there are some things that I think I discovered. I am a maker at heart, so I am a collector. There is stuff really that as we were going through, I would say at least 9 to 10 years, I have had it in the studio and organized it and reorganized it and moved it into a new space and did this and did that. But this was, I think, the first time that I was like, okay, there has to be some sort of time limit where if I don't use stuff for like 5 years, I've got to at least give it up. And I think, that is the other thing about, our stuff, right? When I say, use it or lose it, it's not just the creativity of it or the idea of making, but it's also your creative space. Because I think that what I learned going through my stuff is by clearing out a lot of the clutter that I know I won't use, really, because there is that thing in the back of a maker's mind, right? Like, well, I might use that someday. I need that because you bought it at one time or you were given it or whatever it was. And it was like, but I might need it one day. But that kind of mindset, I think, also could add a bit of fog to your making space, meaning you can't really see clearly of all the stuff that you want to use because you have so much distraction of things that you probably never use. But again, that's my creative mind. You might be way more focused and you might be like, no, I know what I like and I have this here and I have this here. So again, I'm not saying get rid of your stuff. I'm saying that, there's nothing wrong with purging through your items and stuff that you're not going to use. Pay it forward, right? We donate to schools here in the area. There's a lot of schools that would love stuff for art programs, drama clubs where they could use paints and inks for props, whether it's fabric or Goodwill. We donate a lot of stuff to Goodwill, everything from not only products, but also, fixtures or tools. So that's the thing. And yeah, I saw a comment from Vicky. It's hard letting go of stuff, but at the same time, it's a little exciting because, I don't know, as a maker, I kind of just go, well, I've made room for new stuff, right? I mean, look at all this space I have now. But it is that balance. And I think once you find the balance, that's good. It was a deep dive into the studio. There's a lot of, like, I was joking about calling it Studio 2.0. There's a lot of times that I've cleaned the studio. Of course I clean my studio, right? I'm a very neat maker. During the process, it's chaos, right? I've got stuff everywhere, on the floor, on covering the tables, all that. But at the end of every single day, my studio is completely put away, always. But that's always been me. But I've never really taken a deeper dive, right, in stuff. I'm like, okay, that's good. I'll tuck that in. And I did find that I was less and less motivated to make because I felt like I had to go through so much stuff to get to the stuff I wanted, or there were so many options that I didn't know what I wanted to use. Because, once you take out that bin of embellishments, it's like, oh, I think I want to use it all. So, again, this is what worked for me, and I'm just going to take you through and kind of show you the process. So I figured I would take you around, try to answer questions. It's a different dynamic because as I go through, I call it the studio cam. We set up a studio cam with a gimbal so I can walk around. Mario's going to be watching the comments. We'll try to answer questions throughout the tour, if you will. But at the end of the tour, I am going to demo some of the stuff as far as like how I organize stamp binders, talk more about Sizzix binders, which work for me, talk about the Ranger labels, if you didn't catch that on Instagram. So hopefully I'll just be able to give you just some insight. And if nothing else, right, because it is sometimes an overwhelming task to look at your space and go, oh, I need to organize it. That's the other thing, how we approached it. We didn't really take it on as a studio redo. It was just, I took one section and I decided like, okay, I'm going to work through this. And then I moved on to the next thing and the next thing. And some things took quite a bit of time. I would say that the Sizzix took a long time. It took weeks, yeah. But it was years of not doing it. And so to sort it in weeks was nice. Now I will tell you that the Ranger labels, if you saw that Instagram thing, that was something that I put off pretty much to the end because I was like, oh my gosh.
That was so much fun though.
It's going to take forever. And it literally took us hours. It was unbelievable that once you found that groove and obviously the idea with the gel plate.
The gel plate was just genius.
That was it. And I'm so happy with it. I mean, I probably will end up labeling all four sides of my ink pads now.
You will.
I probably will. After I did one, it was good. Anyway, we're ready to go. Hello to everyone. Gosh, people from Alaska, everything. It was really, really good.
It was quick and so satisfying.
Yeah, and I think, because there's always been, and there still is, there's printed labels on Ranger's website. If you go to rangerink.com, you scroll to the bottom of their page, it says organize your products. They have labels, color charts, all of that for all of the products that they have, for all the designers, right? And some people really like just using their labels that have the color and the name, and that's totally fine because that does work. It gives you a great reference. For me personally, I love the actual look of the color because you know from color printers, whether you have an inkjet or a laser or whatever, it's not going to be
always different.
It's not going to be exact, and I really like to see the distinct difference between the colors, and that's why I was excited about those particular labels. But you're going to see a lot of found objects. I think, you know, for anybody's creative space, it is about surrounding yourself with things that bring you happiness, right? Some people are very neat and tidy and want a nice clean space, right? They want, you know, white walls or, you know, windows, or some people like to surround themselves with huge explosions of color, right? I remember when Vicki Booten was doing her studio redo and she was showing us like painting the walls and bringing in carpet and all that. And that is inspiring to see because, again, it's about personality and taking your personality and bringing it into your space. And the one thing I don't want you to do is to be discouraged if you don't have a craft room, right? Or a studio where you think, well, I just make on my dining room table, that's my space. But that's your space. Remember that. So even if that is your creative space, make it work for you, right? Put the things in that space that are going to inspire you to make in that space, right? If you have all your craft supplies in a closet, great. Make it to when you open that closet, you're going to be inspired by what you see and not like, oh my gosh, I have to dig through this, close the doors, right? So that's what it's about. Good?
Good.
Good. All right, we're going to see if this works. He'll be able to entertain you while I'm doing this because really, yeah, it is interesting. I'm going to try this, but it works. Listen, I've got like, you know, gimbal. See, we've got the whole studio cam. I'm going to just try to turn on. A gimbal is not meant to be plugged in. I learned that yesterday when I did it because I really wanted to see. It doesn't like having a cord on it, but that's okay. I'm going to be totally fine. Just let me get hooked up and then I'll switch it. But this will allow me just to go through. Let me just make sure it's still happy. No, it'll be fine.
It's so cool how it just moves itself around.
Well, that's the whole idea. Okay, I just have to give it some slack, right? So, all right. You ready, Mario?
Ready.
I'm just gonna, there we go. Whoop, whoop.
Cool. There you go.
See, I know. Isn't it nice? We have like a little studio cam. Okay.
Studio cam.
I just call it the studio cam because we're gonna go with that. Look at that. Here we are, studio cam. Okay, I know, live studio. Look at that. Whoop, whoop. Okay, so let's just kind of take you through. I'm gonna back up and just kind of give you an overview of the space. I know that Mario's gonna kind of move the computer that I'm on out of the way because this way you can kind of get a whole overview of what that is. I'm just going to be mindful of the cords just so you can get a glimpse of the space because the studio itself is not a massive space. That's where we stand. See, it's just a computer on a stand. That's all we do. I know, see smoke and mirrors in here, but I'm at the door of my studio and the studio is just a room, a bedroom in the house. This is where all the work happens, right? All the magic, as we say. It's where all the magic happens.
Asked how big it was. It's not even 400 square feet.
Okay, there you go. That would be a question I could never, ever answer. Not even 400 square feet. So Mario will be following along with his phone to answer questions, and I'll make sure not to trip over any of these cords. Let me move this one out of the way. There we go. Okay, so as you come in, you can see like that is the table, and a shout out to our neighbor Art. He's the one that does all the woodworking stuff that we have. This was a tabletop that I bought that just was a regular kind of dining room table. And I used it like that for years. If you go into some of the older studio ones, you see where I used to sit at a desk with a metal top. That's exactly what this is, that metal top. But I'll tell you, I hated it. It looked cool, but I hated it. And the reason I hated it was because this metal top was really kind of uneven. So we just made it work. I started collecting letterpress, right? Put all these cool vintage letterpress across the table. So these are all real blocks that I've collected for years at junk shows, and then covered it with glass, tempered glass. That was the inspiration, of course, for the media mat. I know there's a lot of glass mats out there now that people work on because glass is a wonderful surface to work on, right? So whether you have a media mat or another glass mat or even just a sheet of tempered glass that you can get from a glass shop, it's a cool surface to work on. And that's what I was using all the time before I did the media mat. So this space is nice because it does allow us to stand. There's an opening on both sides so Mario and I can sit. We have office chairs. We took them out of the room just for the tour because I didn't want to trip over those. But those chairs just kind of lift up so we can sit or stand. If we're standing, we have some mats, right? There's a little behind the scenes of just kind of some fatigue mats. I recommend that if you are going to be standing and you have a wood floor, get a mat, right? My knees can't take that anymore. There is the space that you don't normally see. This is where I stand for all of the lives, right? When you see the live, this is it. This is our setup. It's like, it is smoke and mirrors. I stand here against this tiny little space. That's it. That's my space. There's an air conditioner in front because we live in Arizona. So I don't have much room to go, but I don't need much room. I just kind of stand there. Normally there's a ring light out the window, right? When I'm doing a full-on demo, there's a little stand stuck into a block of wood. It looks like a birdhouse. There's two different holes depending on how high I need to be, right? If I need the camera to be a little higher because maybe I'm in a demo like, you know, a die cut machine or whatever, okay? There would be that. So I think that like when you're seeing this space, right, and how that works, that to me is really important to just kind of figure out what's going to work. Some people have a camera mount, some people can have all of that space, and that is totally fine to do. Again, you have to do what works for you, right? Okay, so let's just go in and well, I'll just talk about stuff, right? I think that's going to be, it's going to be really good. So when you come in, there you go. You'll see there's a poker machine. This was a machine that I got Mario as a gift years ago. Converted it from a machine to kind of this fireplace because the machine stopped working. I got this idea from Crafty Lumberjacks. You're watching the chat,
Yes.
right? Because I'm just kind of blabbing. Cool. The Crafty Lumberjacks, and they did this to a TV one year. These are little LED lights from Target that I bought. I bought them online. And yeah, we took out the monitor because the machine didn't work, but we love the machine because the machine itself is super cool. Took some logs, some rock. I got some fake brick from Amazon and just, well, you know, I don't know, made a fireplace. I love that. And then there is just some wall art, the ink pads. I think just having those distress pads there, that always brings me happiness. It really does. I love seeing that. Got that neon on Amazon. Fill it with junk, right? There's a little car. Friend Zoe got me. There's a lot of stuff like when people give me junk, I love that. It's like a Disney car. Just wild stuff. I've collected stuff for many, many years, right? Different signs or gauges. I don't know. And I do change it up. I mean, if there's junk, I'll find a space for it. There's a place that I want to actually put junk. I'll find a space. This was a gift that Paula gave me after my heart surgery. Absolutely beautiful, right? Means great deal to me. There's a date on there. So yeah, really precious to me. So again, it's about surrounding yourself with things that have meaning or inspire you in many different ways, right? So this, you can see just walls from, and I hang up everything, right? Like old paper trimmers, that's art right there. Hang it up, right? If you see that. That cool metal rhino, that was from an artist we bought in South Africa. Absolutely loved it. It was great getting it back in the suitcase, right? It's pretty big and cool and dimensional. But yeah, there's a lot of wild stuff around here. I'll kind of take you, just show you around to some other walls. There's some Disney art that I like, a little suitcase, right? So I like that this does have vaulted ceiling. I'll talk about the lights just to kind of tell you the lights that have worked for us. But again, a lot of junk surrounds the real stuff, right? So down here, these are just two metal tables. These are tables that I think we got, I don't know, maybe it was Sam's Club, Walmart. I don't know. They're kind of adjustable, right? Just kind of stainless steel. And so down here, I've got a couple of different Xyrons. I do love Xyron. I use that for really all Sizzix die cutting. I like that. You could use adhesive sheets. I just found that this was a little bit more cost effective, and I also like that to me, it cuts a little bit cleaner. I've got my Vagabond down there because, well, the original is still working. So I've got that. I also have the Sidekick, I've got the fold away, the Switch Plus, and in the very back covered up is my sewing machine, which I wish I used more, but I don't. Oh, it keeps doing that. I think it keeps getting crabby. I think it's this cord where it's like, okay, we out. Or maybe it's just because it doesn't think I'm using it. Anyway, so if occasionally the gimbal just drops out, just know that, like, we'll fix it. Okay. So then we've got these drawers, right? And these cool wooden drawers, they're very neat because, well, they hold a lot of stuff, right? These were things, this whole little wooden dresser thing we picked up at a junk show. Where were we? In Minnesota. There we go. Oh yeah, was it Junk Bonanza?
Yes.
All right, in Junk Bonanza when we Got it. And I do like the fact that, all of these little drawers, this is where I keep like found objects, right? So it might be like old watch parts or charms or trinkets. This is where, to me, all the junk goes, right? So there's like pocket watches and watch parts, and every drawer there's going to be something odd, right? I love little tubes of paint. Any place I had a missing drawer, I just made into a display, right? I have different types of letters, right? Whether they're game blocks or dice. So, and I don't label a lot of stuff. Like, I kind of think there's people that if it works for you to label, then label. I am a digger and I like to be surprised. So I have an idea where I have stuff, like to me, I know that this is going to be like spools and pins and buttons. Yep, there we go. So kind of sewing-ish stuff. I know this is a little bit more industrial, kind of so on. And then we do get into some ideology, right? I know that there's going to be baubles, there's going to be some glass in here. And then I have my other ideology up here, which I think we talked about, and I'll show you that. But yeah, I like to dig, because I think that sometimes, I don't cook, so I don't really follow a recipe for creativity. So it's not like I go, oh, I need to find this. I know in the general area, and I find that if I'm digging through stuff, I might be inspired by, other stuff that's there.
You know pretty good what's in all the drawers, though. If I ask you for something,
I do.
Spot on.
I do have a pretty good idea. So this is a piece that my friend Debbie Adams got for me at a yard sale. I think she brought it to, I don't remember. I think we were at a trade show and she's like, I found this cabinet at a yard sale. Maybe the whole thing was like $20, and I was like, yes, I'll take it. It is, I don't know what it is. It came, clearly somebody built it, right? They're little metal drawers that Mario seems to think are like maybe from a restaurant or something. They were spray painted once, and then they kind of fit in these tracks. And it is weird because this was built, each drawer has its own space. So like that drawer won't fit over there. It just doesn't work. So I use it for ideology. So this is where all the trinkety stuff is. I'll try to just kind of show you jump rings, washers, keys, gears. And what I used to label it, these are ideology type charms that we used to have. I think these have been retired. These are loop pins. So the pin just kind of goes around the handle and it just sits there as a charm. It works for me because it does give me, again, just kind of a little idea as far as, I don't know, what's going to be where. And so every single ideology embellishment is in here. Okay. So if it's numbers, they're all together as numbers. If there's keys, they're keys. So these faces, this was a gift from my friend Heidi, Simon Says Stamp. I love them. Aren't they so cool? They're made out of, I think, some type of concrete, and the expressions are everything, right? Yeah, so good. Look like me. I love them. Yeah, they're just cool. They're just fun. So yeah, I like them. You can see like every little space has something, right? Something is tucked somewhere, even like, old maps. Oh, there's an old Cleveland map. Shout out to Stampers Anonymous. But yeah, I shop all the time for junk. And I know I shared this, right? This was kind of a recent find that I had, this cool die display, because there's just junk that, is cool to look at, right? So maybe it's just a pile of, you recognize that cute little girl. She's from our ideology line. So yeah, whether it's photo booth or stencils or stamps or numbers, pool balls, there's all sorts of weird stuff. I know some people are creeped out by the arms or hands. I happen to love that. I think that's really fun. So yeah, there's just some cool elements. Old scissors. I like to hang up paint palettes, which you're going to see. So this is just kind of like, I don't know, the creative space. Then we have the demo area. Again, that's just for videos. What I use to keep reflection down is just vinyl flooring. This came from the trade show booth, but I found this to be the best. So I know that there's a lot of companies that do like photo boards and things like that, but if you're on a budget and you want something that has zero glare, because to me, a lot of those photo boards still have glare for the lights, you can go to your flooring store and ask for remnants, and you can pick up these for, just a couple bucks.
We paid $2.
Yeah, $2 for, just the vinyl. And this is sheet vinyl versus the planks, because then you can just roll it up and clean it off. But that's what I use. So when you see that kind of wood tabletop, it really isn't. It's covering the metal. So just something to keep in mind. It is nice, and you can get all different patterns from rock or whatever that is that you wanted to use. Then you'll see a lot of these shelving units. This was Mario's idea because it didn't matter what kind of shelving I bought. I tried stuff from IKEA, from Target, from everywhere. And because I like to load things up, the shelves just were not cutting it,
Just couldn't take
right? I would imagine if I went into some type of cubes, it would have been a little bit better, I think, because I think that could have been quite a bit more helpful, right? Because the cubes would have probably provided a little bit more stability. But these, they're just like restaurant shelving, totally adjustable. So you'll see all of the stamp binders, right, with all of my Stampers Anonymous. And again, a lot of stuff that I have in here is excessive. But again, I do this for a living. So, you know, you can't look and go, oh my gosh, I could never have that many binders, all the stamps. Maybe you don't have all those stamps and you probably wouldn't need that many binders, but
Zoe does.
Zoe does, but I do. And that was another thing. So let's talk about storage and longevity. That was a good segue, Mario. So something like the binder. Whenever I design something for a company, and I've said this before, I don't have any say in its life cycle, right? How long it stays around. And storage is a weird thing because, you know, some people are into tin, some people are into metal, some people are into binders, some people are into clear fridge bins. There's a lot of different options for storage. But storage doesn't last forever for a manufacturer. So like when we did the stamp binders, the original ones were kind of a faux tooled leather, right? It had little swirls and all of that. Well, they just discontinued them. They stopped selling and that was it. They were gone. And then of course, people wanted them to come back, right? They're like, we need the binders back. Well, we couldn't bring those back anymore because that company no longer made those. So what were we left to do? Well, we kind of redesigned the binder. This time I did it in kind of, well, I don't know, like a gray cracked leather thing. But the downside, obviously, if you were collecting the other ones, well, now your only option was going on to eBay. So my advice, if you're spending money on some type of storage, and this is not just in this industry. I think sometimes in the craft and hobby industry, we live a little bit of a delusional life, if you will, where we think that things last forever. Take something like the Container Store or Target. You could go in one season and find this storage line, but the next season, that storage line is probably not going to be there, right? Or it's going to be changed or it's going to be different. So my advice is if you are investing in something like these, you're going to want to get some extra, like there. These are binders that have nothing in them. Because you're going to want that ability to grow. So whatever your space is, for example, that maybe you're putting binders in or whatever, it's just a good idea to get some extra in case they become discontinued or retired, right? On the top, I have locker baskets. I love these vintage locker baskets. I have them filled with scraps of vintage wool. Those are all my fabrics from Free Spirit, Eclectic Elements. I've got a lot of the big stuff for Ideology. So you'll see like vignette boxes, again, things that I can see. So I like to work out of things because, well, it's visible to me. And so if I can see it, I'll use it. At least that's my plan. Then down here in these shelves, I've got all my stencils hanging on the side, tons of stencils. I like to keep them on the rings. I keep them, you know, just a small grouping. I don't have them themed or anything. I just like to flip through them and see what I have.
Your paintbrushes are...
Oh, I love paintbrushes. Yes. These are like wallpaper paste brushes, so they're pretty massive. So I do like them. And they fill that space nice, right? They have character, some personality. So down here, these were shelves that I picked up at Kmart a bazillion years ago when Martha Stewart did a line for Kmart. And they fit in here. That's another great thing about any kind of adjustable shelving is that you can find other units and adjust the shelves to accommodate these. So these are nice because they have slide drawers with stoppers. So I have those going all the way across, and in the drawers I've got, well, different stuff. So here I've got all my cutting pads, Sizzix stuff, right? So it's easy to kind of figure out which cutting pads I want or die picks or tools. These are vintage tools. These inspired a lot of things. This is actually a vintage decal trimmer. That back there is the coolest eyelet setter on the planet ever known in life. It's the craziest thing. Then I've got heat tools, glue guns. These are all of my mini ink. So if I'm, you know, going to do a quick inking, I'll take these out instead of going over to the spinner. I've got trimmers, cutters. I've got stamp blocks like my grid blocks and palettes, a drawer of adhesive because as we know as makers, one could never have too much adhesive, right? So all the tapes and glue dots, just odd tools. There's an industrial corner rounder that Stampers Anonymous sent us. brayers, punches, every sort of corner rounder, crocodile. Like, I just love stuff. See, old making memories stuff. There's markers, pencils, glitter, mica, and then other tools, right? So other tools could be, you know, like hammer, wire. I use the ideology jars just to put in little nails and things like that. So that's tools if I need to use that. Then at the bottom, I have wire baskets. And the wire baskets, this is also something that I wanted to go through. So down here you can see I've got ribbon, I've got different trims, I've got all sorts of stuff. I've got foam stamps, right? We did for ideology, stickers, pads of paper, right? So this is like all Sizzix surfaces. Then up here, this is where all the ideology stuff gets in. And I'll talk about these pockets as well at the end and just kind of share where I got it. But this is new for me, a way to store ideology. I love these clear pockets because I used to just keep stuff in packaging, but then I found that I was tearing out the packaging and then I ended up just mixing all the stuff together, and then I just didn't want to use it because I couldn't really find what I wanted. And these work for me. You know, some people, I know I've seen Tifa do like ephemera in a binder, and I know that's been really useful for people where you can see what you have. But I've got everything in here from baseboards to different frames, and how you categorize or sort things is really about your brain, right? Me, I do it by product. Some people like to do it by theme. But I've got all of my baskets now with every single ideology kind of paper SKU that I do, from rub-ons to stickers, and those envelopes I got from Amazon, and I'll talk about those. And then bottom, again, cardstock. So there is all the ideology craft stock, backdrops, paper pads, substrates. Yes, that is grunge board in the front. But it's fun, you know, seeing all the substrates I did through the years. Gosh, from cork and burlap and substrate sheets. Gosh, remember this? Glassine. See, I'm a hoarder. I haven't used this in forever. Craft glassine, probably one of my favorites, but you know, it didn't last, but I love it. See, I just chopped off pieces as I need it, but I kept whatever I could of that substrate. Yeah, and I like just having stuff in binders. I'm sorry, in baskets. So that, again, that's what works for me. Okay.
On the envelopes, I know you got
Yes.
them from Amazon.
Yeah, and I'll talk about them at the end. I have them here, so yeah, we can even throw up a link just to show it. But again, it's because it fits that basket. So my advice, there's many envelopes on Amazon. You can type in a measurement of whatever container or bucket you're trying to fit, and that will give you your options. So I already had the baskets. I just wanted something that would utilize that space the best. I didn't care about height. I cared more about width. Right? So again, that's what works for me. Then we've got the tabletop. So for the tabletop, I've got, again, just down here, just some display stuff. I love the books. There's some vintage popcorn boxes because, well, that's my brain. I love the color rainbow books. Right here, I'm not lying. They're my compendium books and the creative chemistry binders. I've talked about that all the time. And I think some people think that I'm like, full of it, where I'm like, I go through my own books and I go through creative chemistry. No lying. It's like sometimes when I need inspiration, I like to just pick this up and say, oh, wow, okay, and go through these techniques and be like, oh, a rhodometallic, yeah, creative chemistry 102, and remind myself how it's done. So when you see me doing a demo and you're like, oh, he's got it all figured out. Smudge stamping. Sometimes it's just like out of sight, out of mind. And I love reviewing techniques and going, oh yeah, hold on, gosh, I haven't done this in, wait a minute, I'm gonna try this with maybe this new product. That's the other thing about the importance of technique books, is looking back and, you know, like when using gilding flakes with sticky embossing powder, but now thinking about doing this with, you know, hot foil plates or the mink or anything. I just think that it's important to always take the time to do techniques. If you don't have instructions, this isn't a push for creative chemistry, although if you haven't taken it, I highly recommend it. But also, even if you're just playing around, jot down some notes of how you did something or what you liked about it, because in the moment, it's going to be fresh on your brain. But you go back, in my case, an hour later, it's gone. But years later, forget it. So yeah,
a couple of questions on the baskets. I don't know if
Yes.
you're talking about the Kmart ones or your vintage ones. So
Okay.
You can
So what's the question?
Well, where'd you get the baskets?
Oh, okay, Kmart.
Yeah, but I didn't know if it was these or those.
Yeah, so these are Kmart, but you could probably look for metal baskets, because I'm sure I mean, this was many, many years ago,
Right.
but you can look for metal baskets. These, if you're into vintage, these are just called locker baskets. And I like them. I like their character on this. So you can find these on eBay or Etsy, and often you can even find like, lots of them where you could buy, 3, 4, 6 at a time to get a better price. But yeah,
And
looking for
someone
metal
did ask
baskets.
about how you store
Really
your
cool.
stencils.
Yep.
I saw that.
There you go. Stencils, just the wire rings, and these are also from Stampers Anonymous. I just like that because I can just flip through those. To me, it makes it just easy. That's what works for me. And I do have some swatches that I reference, like embossing glaze. There's my extra stash of rings. These hooks, these came from IKEA. So there's often I hook things around those little baskets, also IKEA, that work onto this. So it is just about kind of collecting stuff of what works. And then up here, like on my actual work surface, right, I've got my blending tools. This is an old rack that Mario found for me in Florida, I think.
Yes.
You got from an antique store when you were with Jill from Whimsdoodle. Yeah, and I think that I love just the double-decker cast iron range. I used to sell an ink spinner, but they got rid of it. So I do love that. I found an old postcard display that, yes, I have postcards displayed, but this is where I keep all my pre-cut cardstock because it's the perfect size for that rack. So this 4 1/4, 5 1/2, just your A2 card. So I have all my different cardstock from cracked leather, wood grain, watercolor, white heavy stock, coated. So I have, specialty or glossy. And then on this side, tags. And in order to get the tags from falling through, you just make yourself a little holder. Then I've got my tags, my mixed media, and then craft and black. And yeah, it's just fun. And, yeah, if you had all the different surfaces, you can fill it up. But I love the fact that, for display, I can just look at the postcards knowing that it's also functional. And then I just have stuff, right? All sorts of vintage stuff. An old stamp holder, bell, I don't know. I love that old paper rack. We use that paper a lot. I love ink bottles, right? Love good storage of ink bottles. We do dust stuff, but I like getting dust on there. But yeah, this stuff is all puttied down, so I don't have to worry about knocking it off. I just use that wonderful putty, some string. And then this file box, this is where I keep like my most used tools. And that's another thing. I believe that organization is great, but don't be so organized that you don't have anything at the ready because then you won't use it. Again, use it or lose it. So I have all of my cutting tools in here, right? So scissors, picks, all my tonic stuff, tiny attacher, sanding grip, stuff that I use all the time. These would be tools. Down here would be sprayer, adhesives, microglaze, glossy accents, masking tape, just other tools, I guess, if you will. I have an entire drawer of brushes, right? So whether it's collage brush, water brush, splatter brush, it's a brush, right? So I know that I'll find a brush in here. And yes, I'll find multiples because just like you, I go to look for something, I don't have it, so I get another one. And then as soon as I get another one, I find the first one. But then it's nice because then I have better odds of finding one, right? If I have 2 of them, I have a better chance of finding a splatter brush than when I just had one. That's my justification, and I'm sticking to it. Palette knives, and then down here, just oddities, odd tools, right? Alcohol ink blower, the marker spritzer, texture hammer. I don't know, this is some sort of weird little spongy tool, just stuff. But I know that if it's a weird tool, it's going to be in this drawer. And that's where I keep that. And then down here, this is where our neighbor kind of customized this table. So this table, again, had just regular table legs, came with the drawers. We cut off the legs, and then he just built these boxes, really. They're just wood boxes. The one side where you saw the books and the popcorn, I knew I wanted some little display space, but it was really about creating these drawers. And these drawers, this is where I keep all of my papers, right? So like full sheets of watercolor cardstock, you can see mixed media heavy, and I just use hanging files, nothing special, right? So heavy stock, index stock. So I just go through all of the different papers that I might want full sheets of. And then down here, this is a deeper drawer. This is where, when I did 12 by 12, all the 12 by 12s are. So, again, it's about creating what works for you and adapting as well. It's pretty cool. Then as we go through here, there's not going to be much in this corner because I refer to this spot. Mario knows that spot, the locker. So those cool lockers, besides that I love them, That is what contains, that's the brain box, I call it. That has every idea in there for the next 2-3 years. That's where every new product lives before it comes to life. Even as a designer, I don't trust myself. I don't. So everything that's new stays in that locker until it's released. It doesn't get to come out into the studio because I might use it, I might show it. So yeah, it's got, yeah, all the new stuff.
Like open,
Yeah,
open.
no, both sides. And it's like, see, that's where I have to kind of put stuff. So then the top, again, I love just funky stuff, just weird stuff. I have a thing for paintbrushes of all kinds, used brushes. I love elephants, I don't know why. Little jars, little things. That's something that I made that for myself. That's the one piece of Tim art you will see in my studio. Probably the only piece, actually, if you even want to call it art. I don't know if you would, but I made this the year I was going in for open heart surgery. I made that for myself just to be like, you just hold on. So it's a very personal piece for me. I love tickets. Oh my gosh, ticket rolls, that's my jam.
You do have a ticket obsession.
It's the hardest thing for me to find, but I love to collect them. I love the Scary Monkey. I know some people don't, but he is epic. He's very cool. I love this, Let Whoever Think Whatever. I bought that from an artist on Etsy, and it's very cool. Lights up, and that to me is a very strong message to just remember, that everyone's going to have their opinion or judgment. So just let them think whatever. And then, yeah, old stamp pads. I mean, take a look at that. Look at those cool old ink pads. Love all of that stuff. Bought that from lady that does nutcrackers. I love how she carves dolls as well. He's very cool. Love old paint palettes. Again, just junk. Big T that Paula got me. That cool hand. That was like a zombie hand. That was the hand that inspired the ideology hands. Then you can see the apple, and then if I zoom back, you'll see up there, I love those crates. So one of my favorite Disney finds, I talked about that Raven, that actually was from Disneyland. That was on Snow White's ride, and then when they did the refurbishment, I bought that at auction, and it's so freaking cool. He's big and resin, but yeah, I just have stuff in boxes or crates. That's another great way to display. Sure, you could buy shadow boxes and frames, but look for wooden boxes or drawers, right, that came out of things. They make great displays to just hang on the wall and fill with all sorts of different things. And I'll go around to the other side and just kind of share with you like how I design stuff. I also love hardware aprons. I just think they're cool. Yeah, they're functional, so you can wear them, but they also just look cool in and of itself. So far so good, right? See, it's not a very big space. It's weird because when you walk around, you're like, one side of the table, other side of the table.
The never-ending question of who dusts.
We dust.
We do.
Probably the same people that. Well, I can't even say the same people that dust your house because you might not dust your own house. You might have someone do it. We clean it, but yeah, dust adds character. So here you have. There's the pin board, right? We talked about that. I love distress pins. I love to look at that. That's art. It also does help me pick out colors, and I know I've seen remarks from many people that got the pins and did the pin board, that it's a really great way to just sometimes, without looking through swatches, to just kind of be like, oh, let's pick out some colors maybe I haven't used. I love that. And again, not a push, but these pins, when they're gone, they're never coming back. So they will be, I think they're going to be collectible. I also love like just stuff up here, right? Kind of creepy, weird dolls. I know some people are freaked out by dolls. I'm not. I think they're kind of cool. An old projector up there, right? He's just saying, don't disturb me. I like that. Yeah, some little Disney art. This is what I did with the other board. I just like to just change some quotes. So again, I needed it for balance because that would be, I don't know, my OCD kind of look. So yeah, I just put some words on there. This is from Cracker Jack. They're on Instagram. I love Cracker Jack Junk Company. They do these amazing signs. I bought this one last year. The popcorn. If you follow Josie Lewis, you can see this is one of her paint pieces. She made a grungy one for me. She does all sorts of cool paintings. Yeah, little Dina art. That sign came from Pottery Barn. So yeah, chunky
Kathy wanted to know
stuff.
about the pin board?
Yes.
And we got it on Amazon.
Yep.
And I'll send you the link.
Yes, and I think what The reason I liked this size is because I knew how many colors I was doing with Ranger, and I knew how much space I would need to, I still left a little top and bottom. I've seen some people like, put a little title because it does come with letters. But yeah, the only thing about this when you're doing it, like you have to just be gentle when you're pushing that pin into the little slot so you don't bend it. But once it's in there, it's good. So we'll go to this junk thing and then I'll take you to the spinner because again, you'll see that probably my studio has more junk in it than other stuff, but junk is inspiration to me, right?
Yeah, and Tifa would like to see all the paint palettes.
Oh yeah, we're going there. They're so much fun. Oh my gosh, I have an addiction to that too. I love the clocks. When I bought the clocks, it's just a reminder that there will never be enough time to do everything you want to do. So get over yourself, right? Don't not do something because you feel there's not enough time to do it. You have to make time for the things that matter. And so I just love those clocks because it reminds me like, who cares? There could be a million clocks running. It's never going to be enough time to do all you want, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't start to do something, right? So that's what I do. And just have weird little displays. I love this little lifesaver rack. These are plastic containers I got at Hobby Lobby that fit this candy display that I picked up on eBay. And it's got, I told you, those are all my cupcake picks. You can see those up there. I have so many different vintage cupcake toppers, doll heads, bottles, milk caps that inspired ideology, bottle caps. I love the old fan. I think that book is really cool. I don't know what would be so useful in there, but I'm sure it's got a lot of useful stuff. More tickets, pool balls. This is where I keep all of the real junk. So this junk, some of it became product, some of it is for props. I will say that this is kind of the next phase. I'm going to be, when I have time, I'm going to be going through and purging these baskets and probably selling it in my Etsy shop, which I've had, but I've never used it. I always say tomorrow, I need to sell this junk on Etsy because I do like to collect, but I also like to make room for more. So, I've got all sorts of stuff from piano keys to rulers to toy cars, little sign holders. You'll see a lot of medals. There's I love receipt holders because to me they make really cool stands for junk. I'll talk about that. These are jelly jar lids. This particular lid you've seen is a perfect base for the ideology display dome, right? So you can create a metal base. There's two of these stuck. There we go. But the glass fits right inside there. So I bought these on eBay. But it's a great little base for a cloche. I don't know, just all sorts of junk, right? Prize ribbons and frames and books. And see, now you can see like the typewriter tins. This inspired an ideology. The paper fasteners were the trinket tin. Those were the type tins. There's game cards. And then, of course, the biggest, Paula's addiction, is all the vintage photos. So we have all of the photos that we do for found relatives and paper dolls and snapshots and portraits. Yeah, it's really cool.
Jill would like to know if you can show your quote board again.
Oh, sure. I'll pan right around. And it changes, just depends on it doesn't change often because to me it's time consuming, but it is fun to just, maybe change it out every few months or whatever. But I love quotes from, like To Live Will Be an Awfully Big Adventure, that's Peter Pan. But yeah, and these are things that are more for me, right? Because there's a lot of stuff that I can't, some stuff can go on a stamp, but other things really are just about me. I think, in order to love who you are, you cannot hate the things that made you. I think that's important to remember. Sometimes we hate going through struggles or we're bitter about things, but then when it's gone, that experience certainly, it shaped you in some way.
And
so
Benches would
just
like
me.
to know about your...
So this is from an alcohol ink resin artist, also on Instagram. She sells these beautiful tiles. So she's got this incredible technique of dripping alcohol ink into resin to create these, I don't know, they're like agates. And she sells tiles, she sells trays. I just love the color because it became like an art install. She might be horrified the fact of where I display them, but I like to utilize every little space, and I loved those colors. So it is cool, artists supporting artists. It's very cool. That metal heart we bought from an artist in downtown, Prescott, where we live. So I love that. Love trophy cups. There is an old paintbrush. So you see its little stand. You can use a vintage receipt holder as a stand to kind of go through things. You can also have junk stands, they call them, where it's just like metal junk that you put in there. But that's an old cash register drawer. Makes a great shadow box. I told you, boxes and drawers, very cool, right? You can see the great little catch flipper. So when you're looking around for stuff, just be open-minded to see, I don't know, see possibility in everything. All right, again, there's another elephant. Don't know why. Bubbles, because, well, I think sometimes my brain is bubbles. Old super balls, remember those as a kid? Love those, where you would just see how high you can bounce it so you could lose it. And then look at these palettes. So I love looking for old watercolor palettes. You can find these on eBay and Etsy. I, of course, love to find the ones that have been used, that are incredibly junky, pretty much the ones people don't want. But I thought they made a great art install, right? You just drill a little hole in the top, tack it up with a nail, and art. And I just use a little putty to keep the brush from rolling out. But yeah, to me, I love that pop of color that it gives. It does give a whole, see, look at that. And then just add some paint brushes. It's fun. And then we have the spinner. This is probably, I'd say, one of my most favorite junk finds. I looked for one for many, many years. I even had one of these trays in Ideology as a product one. You remember that? It lasted for like a couple of years, and then it was gone.
I have one stashed.
But I love this. So this is a hardware display rack. You can find them. They're not cheap. I'm not going to lie. They do come disassembled. So this one I actually found from someone on Etsy, and it was shipped. And it wasn't assembled, so it wasn't that crazy. But this is something you would be better off finding at, like, you know, a junk show. I would say that you could, you know, get it in the back of a car, but you could still find them. But what's great about it, this used to hold, you know, nails and screws and hardware, so it can handle a lot of weight. And this is what I use for all of my products. So I've got my Distress ink and re-inkers in the top. Look at all those beautiful labels. But see, my ink pads have to face out, so that's why I just labeled the one side. But I will label all the sides because I like it that way. Oxides, and in the back, oxide re-inkers. I don't use those, the re-inkers, as much as the pads, so I don't mind things being tucked away. And there again, you have to kind of sort things of what you use most. Obviously, I use my ink pads more than anything. They're on the top, right? Then I get into paints. Then I get into sprays, so all spray stains, right? And they're just grouped like by color-ish, but now that they're labeled, it's much easier to, you know, especially when you're reaching in the back, just to kind of look and know the color, right? Then we've got the oxide sprays, and on the back, you know, there's other sprays too. So, you know, there might be mica stains or whatever in here, crayons, right? So even though they're dumped in, they're kind of dumped in by color. So I don't mind digging through stuff, okay? Then there again, more sprays, cleaners, archival. On the bottom, embossing glaze. So I've got embossing glaze. I've got all my mediums. Again, so happy to have all the tops labeled. Imagine what a mess this was before we had the top labels, right? Just like you, I was going in the back, like lifting up every jar when I needed something. So now I have that, my alloys. Other things, like it's not just all Tim product, like this is all Ranger embossing powders. I love their line of embossing powders. I love all the colors. So I have embossing powders. Distress embossing powders, this was something I didn't own. This is one of the products I actually got rid of, and I regretted it. So see, I've had regrets. And shout out to Wanda. She was watched us on a live, and I made a comment of like, man, my one regret was getting rid of all my Distress embossing powders, you know, because of the release crystals. I loved it. And she's like, look, I got the entire set, and she sent them to me. She gifted those to me. So grateful to have that. So yeah, that was a regret. Do I use them? No, not often, but it's just one of those things. To me, it was like one of the coolest products that we ever did, and people just didn't get it. They just didn't get it. They just didn't understand why you would want embossing powder to fall off your surface. But if you have it and you use it, you know it. Alcohol inks, and then of course big bottles of alcohol ink, and you know I have other things, gesso, and you know paints, and just different things. But this is what works for me for all of my mediums, because I can quickly just access this, but you might not have space for that. So we will take you into this space behind the door. Because this was a bedroom, there's no bed in here now, had a closet, and this is what we've kind of converted. There should have been a sound effect when I open the door, like, because sometimes when people see this, people just go, oh. Okay, so this space, this whole closet space, this was a big undertaking for us. This was a hot mess, guys. This, I'm not,
It was a wreck.
oh my gosh. Everybody has that drawer in their kitchen or whatever where you just throw everything. This would have been the drawer in the studio, only it was a room. And I would throw everything in here and just close the door because it didn't matter. So shelves were packed with stuff. My dies used to just be in cardboard boxes in no particular order, just jumbled. And then if I needed to find a die, I was like, oh gosh, I have to find a die. I didn't want to do it. Now you can see I've got all of my binders. So Mario was a huge help. I mean, I would have to say Mario did 99% of this work because he did all the tabs, which I'll demo. I'll show you those. Did all the tabs for that. And do I have a lot of binders? Yes. But this is 13 years worth of designs because I have, well, all of my designs in here. Okay. But you may not have that many. And I'm going to talk about that too, about binders and bins and what works and maybe a way to think about different storage options, because it's not just an all or nothing. So I don't want you to think that either. My steel rule dies I still have in the cardboard boxes on the ground. These came from Uline. That's where all of the Bigs dies, the Bigs L's, the On the Edge, the movers and shapers, right? So, even these, like mover and shaper dies. I have all of the movers and shapers, and this is when we, Sizzix had these great little tins to store them on. I still keep those because someday I probably will want them. I'll want to use them. I'm not sure when, but yeah, I have options. Original Village dies, but yeah, good stuff. Then down here I've got like giant trimmers. I've got, bags, my stencil cleaners, my bins. And then this was also like a recent update, which was plastic bins. Okay. So through the years, and from shopping at any store, plastic bins change. And I used to have bins in here, probably the same bins for over 15 years, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And, I didn't want to, they were perfectly fine. And I'm like, I don't want to get rid of them. There's nothing wrong with them. That's a waste of money. But honestly, it was a huge waste of space. And so we donated all those bins to Goodwill, went to Walmart, like a week ago?
Yeah.
Found these,
Cheap.
freaking love them because they come in different sizes, right? This size and also like the wider size over here, super cheap, right? Like, I don't know, 6 of them for, they were just like over $1 or something a piece. I like the fact that the lids snap on, right? My old ones used to have all these little latches that would get in the way. It has that little recessed bit on the top, so it allows it to stack. And because they're clear, I don't have to label anything, which means I can kind of move things around. And when I like stuff in bulk, clearly. This is all of my black squares from scrapbook adhesives. Yeah, that's my favorite dimensional thing, just those black squares, because they're black and I don't have to cut anything. Some people find that wasteful. They like the big roll. You do you. I love E6000 when I need to do jewelry. I've got score tape, redline tape, ATG, Dymo tape because I have a lot of old Dymo label makers, leafing, foil, cups, glue, just stuff, string, ribbon, styrofoam balls, styrofoam hearts, right? Wooden eggs. You've seen all this stuff in the demos, but it's good to buy it when you get it, or like me, buy it after season and you have it for next year, because I will use stuff for next year. A whole thing of sticks. You guys remember that at Christmas, how excited we were that we were able to buy sticks? Yeah, bought a whole bin of sticks. Wood slices, pine cones, just natural stuff. Yeah. Weird stuff. Like I love Heidi Swap stuff. I'll use it. I love the neon, the marquee lights, just random stuff. And then because not everything fits in a small bin, I did get some wider bins for the shelves. And again, these aren't even filled yet, but I know that I'm going to want them and I want them to match, so I got them. I think, again, those were sold like in a 4-pack for nothing. But I've got my fabrics in them, so a lot of folded fabrics, a lot of seasonal stuff, right? Some stuff might be for photo props. Some stuff might actually be for making. And then there's also a lot of bulk products. So people ask about product. Now, we don't sell product, right? But I use product. I support my makers with product whenever I can. And so I always like to have product on hand because you never know. It might be a marketing opportunity that a magazine will contact me instead of the manufacturer. And so I like to have a studio supply of stuff. It's usually only, maybe 2 or 3 things of each, but you never know, right? And same thing, like sometimes Ranger will run out and somebody will need something for a project, and it's just nice to know that I have it. So this is where I keep all of the small stuff, alcohol inks and all that. And these are just in little bags by color. But there again, people that are on social media that use the product and tag, I always love to pay it forward and just send them a little goodie bag of stuff. A lot of times we'll surprise them with product. Like distress markers, as soon as Ranger said that they were being retired, I was like, okay, no problem. Knowing that, you know, I'll never get them again. Yeah, I have every color. Let me put those down here. There we go. Yeah, I took extras of every color. So when they dry out, and I know they will dry out, I'll have some replacements for quite a while. I have all of my other product in these iris carts. So this was something that, because this closet had just, oh, and I love Dina Wakely. Can you tell? Look at all the Dina. And I have more Dina. I just haven't put it up. I'm a huge fan of Dina Wakely art. I love it. She's not offended that it's in here because, well, it's just where I know it is and I get to enjoy it. But these are iris drawers. And because this closet had tall ceilings, we just used the top shelf. And I had no idea that these drawers were adjustable. That would be Mario that figured it out. Where it didn't matter if you bought like a 10 stack, you could take out however many sections you need to make it whatever
size you need.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. At least these new ones do. I don't know if the old ones are that way, but yeah, so that's where everything is. I've got every spray, mediums, but again, not excess, but you know, like when Distress Paints, when they retired some of those colors, I'm like, okay, I'll get some colors, but I need to have it because in case an ink pad dries up or paint or whatever, I don't have the time to kind of wait.
Sometimes you just have to test something, you know.
Yes, absolutely. But we like to support it as much as we can when it comes to the making side. So then here, he came from an Ideology trade show booth. He was like a piece of wallpaper, right? That was from, I think we did French Industrial. He's a paper doll now. He's pretty cool, life size. I love that word. Just always be grateful. And then there is the cart. So that cart is often next to the table when I'm doing live demos. You see me work from the cart. I love the fact that I can roll that out and I have it. But there again, that was a piece of storage. It's gone now, right? I think that only lasted maybe, a year and a half, if that? Yeah. And then it was gone. So things just don't stay around forever. I'm glad I have one. But my point on this is where I keep tins. And the tins to me, because you see how I store my stuff normally, right? So let's talk about things like storage tins. So this is all of my Ranger tins, from distress inks to sprays to paints to crayons. This is where I like to keep all of my things that I make when I'm demoing, you know, samples and things. But then I have empty drawers depending on what I'm going to be demoing with. But this is really important because although I don't keep my stuff in a storage tin, maybe you do, I like to have it for each product because when I want to do something, maybe I'm going to be doing seasonal making or whatever that is. That's a little surface thing that I use for demoing, plastic baskets, and on the top is just other junk, right? Old clipboards, cloches, office supplies, right? You never know. You might need a random operation game, right? You don't know. But I like to have the tins because I can fill up a tin with color, right? So maybe I'm doing seasonal demo. It's nice to have the tin for that. I think the same thing goes true for binders. You might not put everything in binders, but it's nice that you can have a couple of binders to fill up with stamps or whatever it is for your seasonal making. And I'm just going to show you this other bin, and yeah, and we'll do a little demo here. So seasonal, this was another thing I'll talk about. Seasonal was really a struggle for me for my Ideology stuff because I wanted to make for the season, but then like many makers, I didn't want to not have stuff if a product didn't come back next year. And so I used to just put it in a box. This has really kind of worked for me now. So I even took the basket and I did a little half and half. I'll see if I can take this out. Ooh, there we go, that'll work. So this, I have one for Halloween and one for Christmas. So in the back, I've got those pockets, right, for all the paper stuff, the rub-ons, stickers, paper, that's it. But then all the trinkety bits, right, I was like, how do I sort those? Because I don't want to put them in little containers and out of sight, out of mind. And this is why I love the Distress storage tin. This is the crayon tin. I think they might just call it the Distress tin now. But I've got one for like all resin stuff, right? So in here you can see just years of that. And if it's super tiny, I'll keep it in a little zippy because I don't want to, you know, have to dig. But some stuff I don't mind digging, right? It's pretty much if I don't want it to get scratched up, I'll put it in there. So like confections or eyes. But there's all resin stuff in here, right? Toadstools, whatever. Then I've got one of just all the chipboard and baseboard. Could you put one in there? Yes, but this was just too much, too thick. And then I have one of just metals, right? And I know a lot of people have cool little divided things. That's great, but I've already talked about how I like to work. I just like to, maybe it's just because I love to go to junk shops and flea markets and just dig through stuff, because I might be looking for one thing, but then I'll find something else and be like, ooh, that could work too. So that's just how my creative process works. But I love the idea now of having all of my seasonal stuff in one basket, be that embellishments and paper. So if I'm doing something for Halloween or Christmas, I can just take out a basket, and that works. And maybe this idea works because you can put this away, right? Maybe you don't have creative space. Maybe you again, working on a dining room table or something like that, and you don't want to give up the space to do that. That's totally okay. Just to have that option, right? So there we go. That was pretty nice. Did I do okay? Did I cover everything? I kind of think I did, Mario.
You did really good.
Right? I think that's good. Again, just a little overview. So yeah, normally I'll go over and close that door. Normally I just like to, it's a space. It's a space that really, it just works for what we do. This is where I do, again, all the designing stuff. You can see like that just comes right in from the kitchen and dining room. It's just a weird bedroom in the house. Look at, there's Mario getting set up. There's the wall, and that marquee actually does light up. I bought that on eBay, and Mario's son, Mario, rewired it, so it's cool, but it gets really hot. Marquee lights are flipping hot, but yeah, cool things, cool stuff. This is all the ephemera. I didn't go through this drawer. I'll show you that. I love this. This is all of like ephemera stuff. So real, all the real tickets that we might use or scan, price tags. This was just kind of an old, I don't know what this was for, but I love these little narrow drawers. So again, I like to dig through stuff. Sometimes I'll use real stuff, sometimes not. Kind of retrofitted this little cabinet for all of the tapes. So just have through the years, all the design tapes and washi tapes I did for Ideology, plus other brands of tape. I love tape. And then I just use these like for fabric tape. So this isn't part of this cabinet. These were just drawers I bought on Etsy. They're just, you can find just vintage file drawers and off you go. It's really cool to just utilize that. So it's cool. What is this? Oh,
That's mine.
it's ephemera. I was like, ooh, yeah, I'm gonna go through. It's a whole book. Cool. All right. So we're ready to switch cams.
Yeah, ready.
Here we go. Whew. That was crazy holding this thing around. Yeah, you can see like my phone is like, give it up, give it up. All right, Mario will entertain while I'm gonna switch and put it over here for, yeah. You will, you'll be fine, won't you?
Yeah, I'll be carrying around all these wires.
No, it'll be good. You're good, that's fine, thanks.
So about the pockets from Amazon,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have one out that you haven't, an item.
I do,
or not, but
I do not, but I have them out.
I'll look for the number while you're on, because people
Cool.
are asking about that.
Cool, all right. That was it. That was Mario's entertainment. See, and I'm already set up. Where he's like, "I'll entertain." Like, yeah,
I'll
yeah,
entertain.
okay.
Yeah,
There you
sure.
go. Cool. Yeah, I'll take a break for a minute, and then I'll show you the stuff. Thanks. I do. Listen, I think this has certainly evolved through the years. I always like to change things. That is who I am.
Remember, it started out as a bedroom, and you came home and.
But even the junk, the stuff, the fact that something's hanging on a wall, I will shuffle things around and put new things up and take things down. And, I guess I never, maybe that's I'm using that name really heavily, but maybe that's the Walt Disney in me, where I don't ever think anything is finished, right? And it's not that I'm not satisfied with it. Of course I am. I'm happy. But I also think that if you just keep everything stale and the same and bored, then maybe you don't find any newness in what you do. So, but that's me. But I do give myself limits. If I bring stuff in, I have 24 hours to put it away. That is the rule I gave myself to keep me from being that hoarder mentality, right? Where I have stuff, where I buy stuff and I don't put it away. That's my rule no matter what it is. It's like I have 24 hours to, and put it away doesn't mean like shove it somewhere into that closet anymore. It means like put it whatever you bought it for. Now, it's nice because the trade-off is I could take something down. I don't have to do anything with that yet because it wasn't new. but it is the trade-off of like, if you wanted that for a reason, put it away or use it. And I think the same thing, and I'll try to talk more when I'm talking about organizing. It is about finding what's going to work for you, right? The studio tour, sure, it's fun. It's fun to see all of this junk, and there's many things that are really just more prop pieces for display or for inspiration. But again, this is also my career, my job. So of course I need to have every one of the stamps that I have, or every ink color that I do for Ranger, or every embellishment, or every paper, because what happens after 24 hours? It goes.
But you don't ever let that happen.
That will never happen, but it goes. That was the rule I said to Mario. Like, if you see it here the next day, just take it, because obviously I won't miss it. That will never happen.
That'll never ever happen.
But it is the truth that if he sees it, it'll just go. Yeah.
So a lot of people, they're also asking about your Etsy shop. It's probably just called Tim Holtz, but nothing is ever going to be for sale there. He says he's going to sell something, but he can't part with the stuff.
But when I do, because there will be a time that I do, I will announce it on social media. He doesn't think I have it in me.
He's a buyer.
I know,
not a seller.
But I know on the smalls, it is good to like. There's some really good stuff that I want to kind of.
You won't.
It'll happen. But I'll talk about that. But yeah, I think that when it comes to your space, to making it work for you, it is about doing what is going to work for you, right? And just because you set it up one way, it doesn't mean you can't change it, right? Because that was where I was. And I think that's what made me so excited when I started redoing the studio. We've been in this space. I've been in this room for a bazillion years. But every time I walked in, I'm like, it's already done. I don't want to put in new plastic bins. Come on, I've already done that. Or I've already done this. It's not that at all. It was about like, okay, you really take that deeper dive, and are you going to use it? No? Okay, then it's just time to go. And sure, in the case of those powders, did I really want it? Sure. Did I need it? No, but I still got it. That's not going to be something that happens quite often, right? I think that at the end of the day, if something's not working for you, or in this case, my ideology was not working for me. I talk to Paula all the time where it's like, I don't have a system for ideology, right? I can put dies in a binder, stamps in a binder. What do I do for ideology? And it was one of those things that it's like, I would either take out the whole basket of stuff or I wouldn't. And that meant I wasn't using it when I should. I wasn't using it on my Sizzix makes, or if I did a card, I'm just like, I don't want to have to go find whatever that is. Now it's just a little different in my mindset. So I change it around all the time due to what I'm loving at the moment. Exactly, Tifa. It's the same thing. It's like whatever you're into, adapt. And if you have that overflow space, you have a shed or a garage or something that you can kind of put away, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Because you could, and an idea for this, date it. Put a date on that. Put a date on that tub or that box when you put it away, because when you find it again, you're going to be like, oh my gosh, this has been out here for 3 years. Okay, clearly that's going to be an idea where you don't necessarily need it, right? All right, let's get to the binder/demo thing. We're good. Yeah, if you can go ahead and grab there's an embossing folder one, and grab the one that says funky. I think there's one that says funky and one that says 3D flourishes. There are a couple shelves. I'm going to grab a stamp binder too, and yeah, we'll talk about binders. Yeah, dating. Yeah, put a date on that. It's a good idea for sure. For sure. All right, I've got that. Yeah, and there's one I think that says like 3D flourishes, and I'll talk about that. We'll see how this goes, right? We're good. Camera switch worked. Wow. All right, I just have a whole pile of stuff, so I will do my best to talk. Can I use re-inkers in the markers? You cannot. No, the markers were just, yeah, they're weird, but you can use refresher on your marker, but yeah, not re-inkers. It's not the same. Not the same ink. Okay, let's go through each thing. All right, this is my Sizzix stuff, so I'll put that with the Sizzix one. There's Mario Finding. I think it's like on the third shelf down. Third shelf down, it's going to say like 3D, maybe flourish, I think is what it's going to say.
I'll tell you what
Picture fits.
3D seasonal, 3D texture.
No. No, I mean, that's okay. I can walk over there and get it because I know just where it's at. It's going to be 3D flourish.
Oh, right in front of me.
That's okay. It's okay. See, even if it's labeled, like get the one that says 3D flourish. Nope, you have everything that says everything except the one that says 3D flourish. Yeah, well, there's that.
I knew it was going to be there.
Well, listen, I like to label stuff. Okay. It is my space. But you can grab me an ink pad. How about like maybe whatever's on the top? Maybe there's like salvage patina or something like that. Okay. So first thing is we don't kind of get into into look at that. Whoop whoop. It's right there. Don't be discouraged by this. I said that at the beginning of the live as well. Don't be discouraged about a space to be like, oh, that'll never be my space, so I don't want to start. Still make any type of creative space inspiring to you, whether that is a room, a table, a corner, a closet, because if it's a space that inspires you, that you enjoy, you will frequent it more. You will do stuff there, right? I think that is the most important thing to remember, all right? So first I'm going to talk about Ranger stuff, then we're going to get into the binders because I'll talk about stamp binders and Sizzix binders. They're incredibly different and talk about it. So first we'll talk about these labels. This was something I did on Instagram. There's an Instagram live on this, so if you want to watch it, it's still on my Instagram. You can just go to my profile and I think click the little video button. But these were new labels that Ranger did. They're label sheets. And the cool thing about these label sheets, for those that got them, there are 3 different package styles. One is going to be rectangles. There's one that's going to be small circles and large circles, right? So they sell 3 different packs. There's not a multi-pack. It's multiple sheets of either the regular round, the small round, or just the rectangular swatch labels. The cool thing is this is made out of the same label stock, if you will. That's what's on an ink pad. So what's nice is that they don't peel off. They also are designed to take the inks because we tested them to make sure that you could take the inks. And that was important to me. Could you print on them? That's a whole nother thing. I think that's, you know, like Avery labels where if you're going to do the printing, these were designed to really add the color yourself. And this was a great tip that I saw on social media, on Instagram, from my friend Julie Faye Van Balzer. She did this, I think, in January of this year. And when we were doing this, and I talked about this on Instagram, I remembered watching that video. I'm like, I need to go back and see that trick. And this changed everything. So my first approach when I got this was that I was going to need to go in with some type of blending tool or brush and ink each label while it's on the sheet, right? Then I thought, okay, well, if I peel this off and stick it down and ink it, then I've got to peel it off and stick it onto something. All those options really weren't that great. Julie's hack, if you will, is amazing, which is take whatever label, and it doesn't have to be these Ranger labels. Maybe you're going to use some other type of labels. But just so you know, like why I asked Ranger to do specific labels, these thin labels will fit on the edge of any ink pad. So not just Distress, if you have any company's ink pads, right? You can put them on the side of those rectangular cases. This also fits on the mini cubes, right? You can either cut it or you can wrap it around because it is sticky enough that it can go around a corner of an ink pad, right? You can use it really on anything. But the idea is that you go in and you apply the labels first, right? Just the blank labels. So let me just see if I can stick this down without getting it too close to my face, okay? Because normally it's like, I don't know, an inch away from my face. And you would go in and add the labels to all of your stuff first, which seems weird. So like if you wanted to label all of the sides, which this will be the first one I do, and I'm going to go back and we'll end up doing all the other ones, right? You're just going to stick your labels on. Now the cool thing, again, these labels, they will not only work on the ink pads, but the circle labels fit on the top of the paints. The small ones will fit on the top of your blending tools. They also fit on the top of the sprays. That was another thing that I struggled with, getting any type of label to stick on the top of that clear cap of your sprays. These do. So you can use them for other things, okay? Once you have your labels on, right, then you're going to take whatever medium it is that you're doing. We used ink pads and oxide for everything. So even when it came to inking for sprays or paints, I didn't actually use the paint. I used the ink color because to me that was the best representation of the color. But I used ink for sprays. I used oxide for oxide pads and oxide for oxide sprays because it does appear different. You will see that when you put the oxide on the label, it looks like, well, how the oxide's going to dry on your surface, okay? So I'm just going to take a little gel plate. There we go. I don't know what this is called. Is it called a gel plate? It's this. Yes, I'll call it it's a gel plate. Okay, I'm just gonna stick that down. You can do whatever size you want. You don't need a massive one. You're just gonna take your ink pad. You're gonna put some ink on there. Now, obviously on the black you can't really see it, but there's ink there. But even if I put it over here on the light, you can see there's not a lot, but there is some ink there. I'll put it there just so you guys can see. Then you're just gonna take the actual case that is labeled, and you're just going to stamp that color right onto that label. How easy is that? And you just dab through it until you're happy with the saturation. Take just a dry paper towel and wipe off the excess ink. That's going to be the ink that's on the plastic, right? And you just go around. There's plenty of ink there. Let you go, focus. There we are. Dab, dab, right? But remember that this is still a label stock. So if you ink it 10 times, you are going to saturate this paper probably darker than what it would go on its surface, but it's totally up to you. Now, once this ink dries, it will dry a little bit lighter, but it will dry like the true color of the ink, the same way ink dries on paper. You know that when you put this ink down, it often looks really intense, and then when you come back after it's dry, it goes to its right color. But you can see I'm just using up every bit of ink on there. I'm not going back and re-inking. I'm just looking, making sure I don't kind of miss a spot. So brilliant, right? I know, Julie's idea was so incredibly, and like, that's it, done. So simple. So if you, again, compartmentalize the way you were doing stuff, you can take your ink pads, maybe you're watching TV one night, whatever you're doing, you're putting all your labels on stuff, and then when you get in here, you're just gonna go in, put the ink down, dab, 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 wipe it off, and then you're just gonna spray this with water or use a baby wipe, clean off that color and do it again. Now, if you had a bigger gel plate, and I even used this one, I didn't clean it until I had no more space, meaning I did one color here, one color here, one color here, and one color here. And then once I had no space, then I cleaned it. I didn't clean it every single time. That is a huge waste of time. So if you have a big gel plate, just use that real estate to do all your different colors before you clean it. Also keep in mind that if you're doing all your products, whatever you're doing, say for salvage patina, you have all of that stuff labeled. So when you have the salvage patina ink, you're doing your ink pad, your mini, your spray, whatever that is, before you have to clean it, right? Does that make sense? So those are things that I kind of learned along the way. The first time when we worked on inks, we just did like halfway through the ink pads, and I'm like, seriously? I have the ink down. We should be doing the sprays. We should be doing everything that I want that color to be. So that is the idea for that, all right? Is there a plan to make this product in a full sheet to punch your own size labels? There is not. No. It's just something that at that point the label manufacturer doesn't want to sell us their stock because obviously that's their raw material. So this was a finished product. So this is how, but I mean, seriously, there's pretty much every size you're going to need for whatever it is you're going to do. All right. So that is the Ranger part of organization. And I do like it. I think it's really cool. I like the ability to do labels, right? Once you put the colors down and color your labels, pull a print. Oh yeah, well of course, but that, yes, if you're into making, you can use up all that ink and create a cool background with all the extra from the gel plate. For sure, for sure. I agree. Let's see, Rose said, I find it not convenient to access, I simply don't use it. It's the truth. It's one of those things about using the stuff, but making it so you want to use it, making it accessible, right? So let's talk about ideology, and then we'll get into the binders. So I'll be totally honest, this was a lot of trial and error because it was very frustrating to shop for these kind of pockets because, well, there's a lot of different kind of die pockets out there especially when you search, and we're talking companies, brands sell different die pockets or storage pockets or stamp pockets. But what I didn't understand was I knew what I wanted, but I was very, I think, naive in when I was reading about like, oh, that's going to work for what I wanted. I didn't want a clear bag, meaning I didn't want a thin plastic because I knew that I would rip right through it with my ideology stuff. Because again, for ideology, I've got stuff like sticker books, rub-ons, right? All of my stuff are in these binders. So I knew that I would have like, metal coil that I can put a couple of packs in, right? Or maybe it's going to be file folders, or maybe it's going to be wallpaper. My rub-ons, sometimes rolls of tape, right? So the label tapes, we had label tapes and stickers, my fabric. So all of those things, these were pretty much flat and soft, but some things like this one's a little chunkier. You can see that like for things like milk caps, right? You can see that this envelope that it definitely gets a little wrinkly. And when I get into baseboards, right? Like baseboard window frames, I found that thinner plastic that I guess most people are using for maybe stamp sets or dies wasn't going to work for me. And so I was happy that I found these. Now, the first time I bought them, I got suckered into the snap, you know, because to me I was like, ooh, look, it's got a little snap. I can snap it and it won't open. I do not recommend the ones with the snaps. Besides that, it takes space. Those snaps are really strong and they rip the envelope when you go to just quickly get it open. These totally work for me. Do I have a link?
I just posted it. If it
Perfect. Works. Okay. So I don't know. Maybe there's 20 in a pack. I have no idea.
21.
Okay. I do believe that they sell other sizes, right? This particular size, let me use it. You do know that if you have a media mat, if you put it into the bottom.
The ones you brought are 7 by 9
and a half.
Yeah.
Yes. If you put it in the bottom left corner, there's your 0, and there's my 9.5 by 7. So it's an easy way to measure. But these really work because they do have that little slot so you can tuck this in. But this would still fit a stamp set and dies and all of that because maybe you are into, you know, putting things into a bin. You know, maybe it's the whole home edit where you really want to have that lineup. That works as well. You have to do what works for you. It is about finding a pocket that's going to fit what you want to put it in, right? You don't want to have all that wasted space. Keep in mind though that sometimes for bins, right? Sometimes maybe it's not going to fit this way, but maybe your bin or your box is enough to fit them this way, maybe 2 rows going the other way. So think about that when it comes to measuring, so you'll be able to get something as close to what works. But yeah, I'm really happy with this because I do like the whole idea behind using these. And no, I didn't need to design them or create them. They were already out there. But this is what I really like. They're not thick like a Sizzix die envelope by any means. You can see much thinner, but they do have the welded edge, which I happen to like, and they're not totally see-through. You can see they have a little bit of a, I guess a little bit of a haze from the plastic, but they're not frosty, right? You can see that too. Anyway, that's what I use for ideology. I like it. I'll use for a lot of different things for us. What about the ones for the little Technique notebook? That was long ago. The Technique notebooks, these guys, this was part of the ideology line years ago when I did creative chemistry, where we sold the binders, we sold these little pockets, and these have long been retired. But I'm sure you could find a binder, find some type of top-loading pockets. I know a lot of scrapbook companies, Ali Edwards, they sell a lot of top-loading pockets, and you can find something that works. But this particular one was part of ideology, and it's long, long gone. Again, it's here, then it's gone. Okay, let's get into binders. Now, here's what you need to understand about binders, okay? Binders are an expense. Like everything else, it's an expense. Some people don't justify this expense, and that's fine. But here's what I've really never understood whenever I read things on social media where somebody is sharing their storage idea. If you don't have anything nice to say, find something nice to say. Just because that idea doesn't work for you, the world doesn't need to know that, right? Nobody said, let me know if this idea doesn't work for you. It's somebody saying, here's what works for me. Now, if you have nothing nice to say and you can't find anything, then just scroll on. But I read so many things going, well, I don't really like that. That's so expensive. That's ridiculous. I find that. I understand that. If there's a conversation about ideas, well, of course you want to say, oh, that works great. In addition to binders, I use this. That to me is as a maker super, super helpful for organization, right? Take that tip from Julie. I would have never understood about inking those if she didn't say like, yeah, I went to the office store, I bought these Avery labels and here's how I did it. I'm like, that's a brilliant idea. So sharing that is really, really important. When it comes to binders, I just wanted a way where I knew that my stamps would be displayed and I wanted them to look the way I wanted them to look. Could I do bins? Yes. I live in Arizona. We live on a dirt road. It gets dusty in here. We don't mind dusting, but I don't want to have to dust and clean my stamps. I also don't want my stamps or now my dies just sitting out. That's just me, because to me, these are tools that have a significant expense, right? $25, $30 a stamp set. That's why people put them in pockets, put them in bins. That totally works. What I like about having a binder is it's also, to me, like a bookcase. There's people that have a bookcase in their house full of books that they've already read because they like to look at them, right? Maybe they just like the way it looks on the shelf. Maybe they want to go back and read it again. So that to me is why I like binders. So I just wanted to get that out of the way because people say, why does he do the binder thing? Because I've tried tins, I've tried boxes, and I like the binder. But when I designed a binder, I wanted it to be the way I wanted it to be. And it doesn't work for everyone. And I totally get that. I really do. So if it doesn't work for you, please don't think that I'm trying to convince you to do stuff in a binder. But the way I see it is, if I'm going to spend the money on the product that's in it, I don't mind spending money on the product that's going to house it beautifully for me to look at. If I wasn't going to have it out on a shelf, maybe I would be totally fine with a bin or a box, because I don't care about looking for it. But also, I think binders are a great way to organize. Stampers Anonymous, all the stamps have numbers, okay? So first let's talk about this binder. This is the same binder as size-wise as the original one with the tooled leather. This is just kind of a cool vintage, kind of grayish vinyl, and I really like that. These measure, I'm going to say, if I put it in the corner, I'm going to say like, let's just go, I'll say 10 by 10-ish. Let's just kind of figure 10 by 10. A little shorter than 10, a little wider than 10, but 10 by 10 is a general idea. The design of this binder has these zipper tabs, and some people truly don't understand the zipper tab, okay? The purpose of long zipper tabs on a binder is that if you're going to unzip it and you're going to work from it, it allows the binder to lay open flat. You can see that this zipper is now straight. If this zipper was short, to actually stop at the book when it's closed, this is how your binder would open. It would never lay flat. So this part is, it's necessary. Some people find that it's sloppy. It's funny, I was reading some things on Amazon where they're like, oh, sloppy craftsmanship. They couldn't even find a custom zipper. They have all these flops. And I'm like, you totally don't even understand why. Okay, the other thing of why is when I wanted these made, I wanted the D-rings installed backwards. Why? Because I don't like the function of a standard D-ring. When you find a standard D-ring binder, this is the side that your paper goes in. Could you still use them that way if that was your preference? Yes, you could still use them that way, and your label holder is just going to be at the top of the binder instead of the bottom. So you could if you wanted to, but here is why. I find that by having my stamps on the curved part of a D-ring, when it opens, it means that when I go to close it, I can reach under, grab the stack, and I did the same thing for Sizzix. When I close it, watch how it closes. See how it just follows the curve of that D-ring, right? When I close it, so much easier. I'll show you if it's on the other side, right? So when I flip this over, yeah, it's gonna drop on this side, which is kind of a normal D-ring. It has all the new stamps in here and the new block, all right? So let's just say we were working and they were designed this way, okay? When I go to close this, okay, I'm even picking this up, it's not curving because it doesn't go around that edge. Even if I'm picking this up and trying to turn, it won't close. So now what I have to do is I have to move all of these up over that edge in order to get this to close. It doesn't make any sense to me at all. So, and that's how every binder is made, with the D on the side of where your papers are. I still don't get it. No one needs to convince me. This is how I designed it, and I'm very happy that I did, because it's so much easier just to close. Like, seriously? You saw it. That is that easy. So stamp sets, because they have a number, you might not have every stamp set in sequence. So number system may not work for you, right? You may choose to do words, quotes, flowers, Christmas, whatever that is, okay? That would be really important for you. For me, because I have all the stamps, I just do them in number order. So even though I go from Christmas, right after Christmas, we launched our next line. So it does go Christmas into this, but this allows me to use the index. If you go to timholtz.com, a shout out to Zoe and Neil who created the index, but the index is the inventory management kind of program on timholtz.com. You could go into the stamps, you can scroll through all of the stamps that you want, right? You look at the number and it'll say CMS whatever, and you're like, oh, I need to find that in my binder. So that's how I find stamps that I want to use. I'll just look on my phone or my computer, look on the index of the stamp I want, and I know exactly the number. So I find the binder where that number is in, and off we go. And even if you don't have them all in sequence, this will fit 10 of these stamp sets. 10 rubber stamp sets is what I recommend, because any more than that, you're just going to put so much pressure on the cushion and rubber, it's not smart to do. So 10. So even if you didn't have them in sequence, you could still say number 1 through 30, okay? 1 through 30, and you know, like, okay, if it's in that number range, this is the binder. It doesn't mean you have 30 stamps in there. Does that make sense? So whether it's number or not, that's fine. if you have a stamp set that has a block, so for example, this one has a custom block. This is the new Bubbles. This set actually comes with a block. So it comes with its own block because it's a big stamp and I wanted it to have a block, and Stampers Anonymous is awesome. So this comes in the package, but because I know that when I use this, I'm going to use this, I just keep that in the binder. That works for me. Now you could put it in with your blocks because maybe you want to use it for other things, but you do have a little bit of space if you had something thin like a grid block that you wanted to keep into the binder, right? So let me get all these flipped over and then we'll close it up. Okay, so the size of these. Now, if you don't have Stampers Anonymous stamps, or maybe you don't have a lot of them, you can buy the sheets that my stamps come on plain, right? This is the same acetate sheet. Stampers Anonymous sells these on their website, has no printing on it, but this is the same material that these come on without the screen printing, because my stamps are actually indexed on the cushion now. The early ones weren't, the first 100 sets weren't, but technology changed, so did the stamp manufacturing. But these sheets are what fits the binder. Sheet size for this, you just go in and measure, thank goodness for the media mat. This is a 7 by 8.5 sheet of clear. So that is going to be the max size that fits. 7, 8.5 is going to be the max size that fits in that binder. Why? You said the binder was 10 by 10. Because when this closes, these come out. You see that? You need to keep in mind that this D-ring mechanism needs space in the binder. So although the binder measures 10, it doesn't mean you can put in a 10 by 10 because it has to close. And so that takes up, see, look at that. It's made to fit. Custom order. There's your real estate right there. All by design. That's the beauty of it. It is the beauty of designing what you like. So if you wanted to put, say, clear stamps on here, could you put stamps on both sides? Sure you could, right? It's going to be kind of hard to see what you have, but you could do that. Some people put their stamps on there. Some print on transparencies and actually stick the transparency to that if you want. If you don't want to use something like this, in the ideology line with the stamp binders, there are also these pockets. So we sell pockets that you can store in. This is a little thicker, so I didn't like, this to me was too thick for my ideology stuff. That's why I didn't use these pockets. I'd rather buy the ones on Amazon. They just worked better for my ideology stuff. But for stamps, this is the same size sheet as this, right? This one is just a different kind of plastic. Yes, you can cling your stamps to this, but you can also either slide in your artwork, or maybe you want a binder just for rub-ons or stickers or photos, very flat things. So you could essentially have a binder that just has these pockets and you could put in flat things, right? But just keep in mind that this plastic is a little thicker. It was really designed for either a stamp set or actually art, right? This was really designed to slide in your art and stick your stamps to the sheet, but you could do whatever works for you. But these are options if you don't have the stamps that go into that binder, right? That's the thing. Yep, just like Ted says, all stamps are available. You're right, Ted. That's the thing about Stampers Anonymous, made in Cleveland, Ohio. He doesn't retire any stamps, so they're all available. But there again, if you have other stamps and you like this format, you can put that in here, right? So other stamps, let me grab this because, well, because Mario's already laughing, because I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Dina Wakely. I love Dina, so I have Dina stamps. Dina stamps fit in the binder, but I didn't use the holes that she has because I'm not sure how she keeps her stamps, but I keep mine in a binder. So all I did was took one of my stamp sheets, placed it down, took my crocodile, punched the holes that fit, and so I do have a binder of Dina stamps. Or whoever, if you have other stamp sets that's going to fit, you can make it work if you wanted to, right? So there you go. That is the whole stamp storage. That works for me. Now when I'm done, here, let me put this down here, get rid of these. I think I tried to answer as many questions on that. So when I'm done, I pull out the zipper, zip it up, because that's the benefit of a binder, and zip it all the way end to end, right? You can have the zips end on the top, the bottom, you can have them finish in the middle, you do whatever works for you. And then you just take these, and there is a gap designed. Again, that's the other thing where they're like, I can't believe they didn't even do the leather all the way to the end. They left a big old hole in there. I'm like, seriously? It's because I wanted you to be able to put that away. My word. When people don't understand, they say foolish things. Isn't that just true in life? It is just funny, where it's like, see, that's where you just kind of don't want to leave a review if you truly don't understand. But there is the stamp binder. right? Now these, they are still available. I'm trying to keep them around as long as possible. I'll be honest, they've been out for many, many years, and I hope that they stay out. But I have had a conversation with Avantis that if they ever need to retire this, to let me know in advance so I could let people know. So they're not being retired right now, but I just said, you know, I don't want to go through what happened with the brown ones, because the brown ones were like gone overnight. I didn't even know about it. And I'm like, whoop, they're gone. So yeah, there is always a reason, Zoe. You're totally right about that. There's always a reason. Okay, so with that binder concept, that was the inspiration to do the new binders with Sizzix, right? Totally different size and shape binder. And my binders are different than the Sizzix ones, the mint ones that they have. Mine is a completely different size. It's a design because I wanted it specifically for the products that I was going to use. It's the same concept, right? A zippered binder. Needed to do it a little, I would say a little stronger, because we wanted to be able to house dies and embossing folders. So this binder, the other one measured 10 by 10. This one measures, I'm going to say 8 3/4 this way wide by 8. So you can see that it's like, it's definitely smaller, 2 inches shorter and narrower. It has again, kind of it's a vinyl, but just more of a textured vinyl. Still has that little label holder. I just print these off, right? I type it in, and I like to take up the space, find a font. My advice, if you're doing labeling, find a tall, skinny font, because you could put more letters in there, right? If you have a nice, my first ones, I think when I did the first video, I had like a label maker on there, and I realized like, I can't say much, because that's, all those letters are like the same width. So I found a tall, skinny font. I think this is like, I don't know what this is called. Maybe this is called like Tall, Dark, and Handsome is the font or something, but it's a great font to work on. And I did these labels in Photoshop, and I love it. So the idea with this one, we only put the tab on one end. Well, why? I don't know, because we could. But the trade-off, just so you get, the trade-off is that this tail has to be twice as long as the one on the stamp storage. Remember, the stamp storage had like 2 little short ones, because we essentially split the difference and we tucked that in. But this, we had to kind of keep in mind that if we're going to open this, we needed the full tail of that. I do like that we gave it more of a tab, because the tab, by having this extra piece, which again, people don't understand. They're like, what is this for? What, are you supposed to put a charm on it? No, it just made the fabric more rigid. So it allows me to tuck this in. See that? Wow, look at that. It allows you just to tuck that in, because it has that thick piece. If you don't want to tuck this in, you can also fold that under when you put this on your shelf if you don't want it. All right. So let's talk about this, because I will say I've learned a lot since I did the first storage video of these Sizzix binders. I learned that it actually holds more than 10. You know, initially I said 10. Most of mine have 12 in them. I would say that you can't do 12 if maybe you have double magnet sheets. You know, you have to just kind of figure out when you get to the top of this D-ring, right, you should be done. You shouldn't put any that come over the top of that, because it's just going to create too much of a bend. But here's the whole dynamic of doing this binder. There again, backwards D-ring. Now we know why. Whoop, easy close. Zippity-doo. You've got the label. If you wanted it the other way, could you? Yes, that would be upside down. That's on you. But you could still do the label. But it is designed, again, for the D-ring to have, I think, more purpose, more function that way. Okay? You would totally put a charm. And you should. It's going to be a little challenging to tuck in, but maybe you don't want to tuck it in. Maybe you want to have that hanging on. That would be great. So let's talk about like how you can do this. Well, the thing about Sizzix, and I didn't know this in all of my years of Sizzix until probably a few years ago, but anytime I designed dies with Sizzix, my dies, the art, right, has a perforated thing at the bottom. So when you get that little slip sheet in with the dies, it's already perforated. You just rip off the back, because you don't need all the other stuff, right? But my dies have always come in envelopes. And not all Sizzix dies come in envelopes. Most of the Sizzix dies, they come in like, they're stuck onto the backer card, and they come in a poly bag. And so there were many options. Mine always had this. So when we started talking about storage, they're like, okay, we'll create envelopes that have holes punched in them. And I'm like, I looked at 13 years worth of designs, and I'm like, well, what do I do with all the envelopes that my dies already came in? That seems like a waste. And so I stalled this idea for quite a while. That's why Sizzix, their storage came out before mine because I'm like, I need to think through this because I don't like the idea of selling envelopes with holes in them again. One, I've got to deal with the hole when I'm sliding my dies in and out. And two, it just seems really wasteful. So I came up with the idea of these tabs, right? And I think these tabs are they just make it really convenient because you can take these adapter strips, really their official name is binder adapter strips. And what they are, they're a package of the same material that your die envelopes are made out of, right? They already have holes punched and they have double stick tape on them. So all you do is fold that right on that crease. Okay, there's your tape. Your envelope, right? You can decide whether you want your envelope to open from the front. I have mine where I can just see the arch and all of my flaps are in the back, okay? But what you do is you're going to open this up because you don't want to seal this closed. You peel off this back, and normally you could use like a craft pick, but just for the sake of this, I'm just going to peel this off, okay? And you'll see on the back of an envelope that it's got, like, again, we talk about this little sonic weld piece, but it has a smooth area. And the best thing to do is working from here, you can start this right on the back, and you're just going to line this up. I'll show you from the back of the envelope. You're just going to line that up right up to that weld, and you can start from the bottom, but you don't go over the bumps. You go right up to those bumps, and you can place this down. It is pretty forgiving, right, at first. So when you place this down, if you need to adjust, you can adjust it, right? So you just stick that down right up against that edge. So not over the bumps, just right up to it. That's going to be your mark. You could go a little further out if you need to. It's completely up to you. Then you're going to peel this end off. Mario did all of these. Mario did all the binder strips in you for every single one.
It was easy. I mean,
Yeah.
it took me time, but it was easy.
Yeah, you just like, worked on them, a few this time, a few this time. Then you're just going to fold that. And now you have your pocket that works in the binder. That's it. That's the simple kind of thing to do, okay? Now, when you're working with these, the binders are really designed for two different size pockets. One's going to be for the dies themselves, right? And I'll talk about the magnet sheets that I use because I don't use Sizzix magnet sheets. I know Sizzix is probably cringing right now, but I don't use them. I haven't, and I have my ways. But they also fit embossing folders, right? So for the embossing folder, what I noticed is that we really didn't have an envelope because the embossing folders don't come in these. The embossing folders just came in plastic. But I didn't they wouldn't really fit in here. Now, because I'm going to cut this off, you have some options anyway. You might think, well, okay, once I see how you use it, I probably don't need to get embossing folder envelopes. But the embossing folder envelopes are just made a little bit larger than your regular die ones. But even so, they are designed that you can put the embossing folders in them, even your 3D folders, and you can close the flap. But I found that it was a little, I don't know, it was a little challenging even when I was doing that. So what I did is I still went in and I cut off the flap, right? So just go in and cut right on there because I found that this was still a good fit. It didn't fall out, right? So when I'm working with this, it's not going to fall out of the binder, but it does allow me to go in and easily take this out. And I found that the flap got in the way, but you could still use it. So you might think, well, okay, what if I didn't? Then the only difference would be is that if you just use maybe you have extra die envelopes, you don't want to get the embossing envelopes, that's fine. If you cut off this flap, just that much of your folder would stick out, but hey, maybe that's easier, right? Maybe that's easier to grab. Totally up to you. But I did cut off the tops of all mine, and now I can fit embossing folders, so it could be your impresslets, your 3D texture fades, your other embossing folders, or you can mix and match. So for dies, this is what I use for magnets. Vent covers, get this at the hardware store. I think they're now up to like $8, I think is what we paid for a pack of 3. These are magnetic vent covers. They're really nice. I know you can find some on Amazon and all different places. We picked these up at Home Depot. But the cool thing is that out of a sheet, right, each sheet is 8 by 15. You get 3 sheets in a pack that you can use. We just use a rotary cutter, so you're going to use a slide blade. But this is what you would essentially yield from a sheet. So this is, right, 15, so it's 5, 5, 5. So you're going to get even yield out of that. And then you'll get 2 extra strips, right? And these strips are cut the same height as as what we cut our magnet sheet. And that really, that's like the only waste, right? You could probably use it for something else, but that's the only waste from a storage perspective that we didn't use from the magnet sheets. The cool thing about this, we cut them a little bit small so they can fit into the envelope or the pocket without friction. I would say that the size of these, when we cut, just shy of 5x6. So you can see like the white line, it's just inside. I don't cut it right on that measurement because I don't want it to be exactly the same size. I want to be able to slide these in and out. I like that they're thin, they're pliable, because it doesn't take up a lot of bulk. You can put in multiple sheets, right? I don't know if I have any multiple sheets. There you go, like on this set, right? So let's just say funky cactus. So you can always, but the other cool thing, like remember you just push that out so you can get your fingers in because you don't want to slice your cuticles on the edge of that. But I use those little extra strips that maybe when a full set doesn't fit, but I don't want to use a full sheet, you just use that, right? And I like having, some people like a rigid magnet sheet. I don't because I don't have fingernails. So I like the fact that when I need a die, I just get to like bend it off, right? Some people are like, oh, that's so flimsy, it just falls off. I'm like, I'm not swinging it over my head. It's going from the envelope to my work surface. So when I need a die, I have the ability to just take this and just essentially peel it off because it is flexible. But again, you need to do what works for you and what makes you ultimately happy. And I just keep that sheet and that's what slides in. So that has been really probably the most time consuming part of the whole studio redo. I love the fact now that all of my dies and embossing folders are done. Because there isn't a number system for dies like there is for stamps, I just did it by theme, right? I did what makes sense to me. So I did alphabets, I did words, I did seasonal, I did like this is funky floral, right? Miscellaneous funky, because I know that funky as a design has its own unique look. It's a little bit more funky, so it's funky cactus, funky trees, funky mushrooms, you know. But there again, you might do stuff that's floral or fall. And as I've said in any of the seasonal things, what's nice about this system, so let's just say you're like, Tim, I'm not buying this, I'm not into the binder, I'm doing clear fridge bins, whatever it is. That's totally fine to do that, okay? And I'm not giving you permission, I'm saying there's nothing wrong with the way anyone wants to create stuff. But don't kind of negate the convenience of a binder or a bin or a basket, because when you are making for a season, it is nice to have a place that I can put whatever it is I'm working on, or maybe I'm going somewhere and I want to pack something up. So even if it's one binder to take on the road, I do like that. I think that's what even got me started on the tins, right? Remember we used to do all those zipper envelopes because just when we were traveling, it's like if you wanted to take something, it's like, I don't want to take all of my distress inks, but there's just some. So having that little tin where I could just put in a few colors, it's been nice. So even though I don't store them in the tins, I have a tin for everything. I just have one, right? Except for my ink pads. I have one for ink, one for oxide. But that's because whenever I want a demo, I'm going to pick my colors ahead of time and they're nice in a demo. I don't have this big basket that I have to shuffle through. But again, that's just me. So for my embossing folders, you just kind of have to wing it on that one, right? So on the 3Ds, right, they are printed. I don't know if you can see it, but the embossing folders, the design is printed on the plastic. And on the clear ones, it's definitely more visible, but that's how I'm able to see what it is. So in this case, it's, you know, flourishes. I've got some that are, you know, everyday, some that I've categorized as collage, some that I categorized as whatever. And that's what I have right now. You know, it may kind of work that, I don't know, maybe there's something that I just think isn't going to necessarily work that I'm going to have to maybe retheme or reorganize because I don't really like how that works. So totally. I think that's what it's all about. It's finding an organization system that works for you. And I love the fact that, you know, I can work from the binder. Same thing with this. This seems silly, but to me, I use it more than I thought I would. I'm going to be honest. I used to keep all the tools in a tin, right? One of my crayon tins, I had the tools. This little tool caddy has been really nice when I die cut now, because you can see I have it over here on the side with my cutting pads, right? But now when I die cut, I take this out and it's anything I need in there. If I need a die brush or the foam, now it's there. If I need the thick foam for the shaping kit, it's there. All of my tools that I'm using, because it zips all the way down, I've got small scissors if I need to trim anything. I've got die picks, quilling tools. I've got sticky grid if I need that in there, tweezers, all of the stuff that I would use specifically. So I'm not digging through, you saw the drawer on my table. I'm not digging through that tool drawer to find tools that I need every single time I die cut, right? So again, it's what totally works for you. And this works for me. So that was fun. I think I tried to cover as much as I could. Did we do okay? I was really trying to watch your comments, but hey, I'll answer more. Let me put this away. Cool. Hey, I think we did pretty good with the whole camera thing, right?
Yeah,
moving it around.
Good.
Whew. All right. So hopefully that answered questions. It's always a personal space. Obviously, I think all of our craft rooms are very personal spaces.
It really needs to be.
But yeah, it has to be what is going to inspire you, because everything is about being inspired, right? When you go into that space, you just need to be happy you're in it. Whether you make something, or whether you organize something, or whether you talk to something, or whether you swatch something or label something, that's just what you need to do. And I love that. I love the whole idea of kind of surrounding myself with the things that are going to keep me inspired to do what I love to do. Because at the same time, this craft, this industry can be overwhelming as a maker, right? Creative block, or just being disorganized, or just not having your feels to go in and actually do something. And so I think that I never want this space to feel that way, right? I never want to walk in disgust in my room and be like, oh gosh, it's so disorganized, it's so cluttered, it's so this. And when I feel that way, it's time that I did that. And I felt myself getting there. I think it probably had to do with the fact that we did 12 weeks of live at the beginning of the year.
Too many back-to-backs.
And so in between the weeks, I really didn't have time to maybe, get stuff organized of something new the way I wanted to do it, or even make in between. And so when that was done, it was like, okay,
it just came
let's reset.
Priority of what was more important.
And
absolutely. Then, the dies kept on going down the list until you had time to get to them.
Yeah,
so.
But it was good, and it was nice to just kind of build that collection. So hopefully, if anything, it just gave you some ideas and motivation about just going in, and don't take it as this huge. Some people are doing a big remodel. Some people build out their space. I think that's great.
Take your time
right?
to do it.
Keisha's space, if you haven't seen her YouTube, it's a beautiful showroom, but that was something built because that is what brings her joy. And that's another thing that's important. There's different levels of how much you're going to utilize the tools, but those things, me as a maker, I need to see it. Out of sight, out of mind. That's why I like the binders, because I know the stamps are right there in my reach. I know that all of my drawers that are wire, or the bins that are wire, they're there that I can go through. If I put stuff away, I probably won't get to it, right?
I just like that we do stuff. We don't put a time limit on it. It's like, oh, this has to be done. Even we might start, after 5 minutes, we stop. We'd have to do something else.
Well, our life is already a deadline. We already have deadlines, it's the brands that kind of control that. So
but we do it for a couple hours, and then we do it for a couple hours.
I think that's what made this one fun. Because in the past, when it's done, you're right, we have always set a deadline to say, we got to get this finished. And instead it was like, you know what? Let's just start this. Let's see how long it takes. And when we're done,
it's done.
When we're done, it's done. And honestly, I don't think it'll ever be done, because now I'm going to swatch all the other sides of the labels. But I thought I was done. But now
you won't even be able to make it through the day.
But it's a great weekend project. Yeah. Right? It's a great thing. So I hope you guys
that's really
hope you
cool
enjoyed it.
Jelly.
Julie's idea. I would have never thought of that. My way of, even when we were doing the labels, we did the gap on the sheet because I was like, I need some space, because when I use an ink blending brush, I'm going to need some space. And now it's so crazy, so easy.
So fun.
Yeah, but again, do what works for you. Do that, but know that it's okay to change your mind. It's okay, even if you spent the time. What is that quote? I don't know. I can't think of it right now. But it's something about I can't even think about it. But it was about, it just had to do with, that sometimes you spend so much time not really addressing something that is an issue because you don't want to deal with the issue. It has to do with just those problems that are in the way, when it can really only take minutes to get past that, right? And I think sometimes when it comes to even organizing or doing something, that you think so much about, how I don't want to do it, and you spend hours dwelling on how you don't want to do it, And then when you do it and it only took like minutes or an hour, you're like, this took up room in my brain for weeks or months, and it's done in an hour.
Okay, so let's just talk about the lids of the other storage containers, how we got to the new storage containers.
Okay.
So someone says to me, hey,
I haven't.
Can you do me a favor? Sure. Do you think you could spray, buy that, whatever you call it, that paint from
The patio Rust-Oleum that they use
could you spray a couple of things for me? Yeah, absolutely. What do you need sprayed?
So I open the door and I'm like, I want all of these blue lids in the bins black.
I've hated that blue since we got it. It's like 10 years now. I'm like,
but when you buy plastic containers that you're at the mercy of whatever color they put on it. And some people are all
because the colors are annoying.
Like, well, sometimes they want teal or lime. That's great. Me, I'm a very neutral guy. And so having like gray or black. So I'm like, I just want to spray paint those. And he goes, you want me to spray paint all these lids? And I go, but only the tops. It's okay if the underside is blue. I won't look at the underside. And he's like, maybe.
I think I have another idea.
He goes, I think maybe we should just go shopping for bins. I'm like, well, there's nothing wrong with these bins. But then I realized that there was actually.
They were too big for his stuff, so he was just taking up all that.
They fit the space, but they were tall. And then I realized, like, I don't really fill the bins because I don't, obviously if you have rolls of tape, you're not going to have mounds of it. But getting the same width but half the height, please.
Yeah.
It opened up so much space. Who knew? But that's just how it is. Yeah. But
yeah, you and your color issues.
Yeah. But hey, listen, you gave those bins away and they were happy to get storage bins. So that's how it is. Anyway, I hope really, my whole point of this studio tour was, because I think it is important as makers that we need to be inspired by each other, not in competition with each other and not put off by each other. We need to take that nugget of whatever we see. And I'm not just saying about the studio tour, like rah, that's the most amazing space. I'm saying just in general, when you see people share a piece of who they are, whether that's art, whether that's an idea, whether that's a storage tip or trick, we need to celebrate that. Even if it's not for us, right? There's going to be some little nugget. Again, I'll go back to Julie's thing. When I saw that, I'm like, that's cool. But I didn't think about it because I'm like, yeah, but I'm doing labels with Ranger. I already know how I'm inking it. We can print them. But then it kind of came back because I was open to remembering that idea was cool versus like, no, right? I'm not doing it that way. That's, I'm not using office labels. Think about that just as you go through your everyday life, that I think we're so, and I'm saying this because it's my opinion, but I also think that sometimes we are so convinced that we're right in everything that we do, right? I know that, that we feel that we need to tell people that, right? So even though they're sharing something great, we need to be like, yeah, that's great, but this is how I do it. And it's like, but no one really asked you. So interject yourself in a conversation. If they're like, hey, do you have an idea for that? Right. Then you're like, absolutely. But sometimes when people are sharing, and I've really learned that it's like, I need to do more. And I think, and this is through the years, I'm not saying I just did this yesterday, through the years that I've really tried to embrace listening more and just being aware of that everybody has a place in this world, this industry, just in everyday life, even if they don't do or act or say or believe the same way I do, but they still have just as much of a place here as I do, right? And so instead of going into battle in everything you do of like, and even whether it's a relationship or whether it's just engaging like at a restaurant or a store, your opinion is your opinion and their opinion is their opinion. It doesn't make one right or wrong. I think we just need to celebrate that with each other. And that to me is really a great way to approach things. And that's what I love about, I think, social media. I think some people just absolutely despise social media. I like social media just because I love to look through and see what other people are doing, how they're doing stuff, whether it's ideas or, even just how they use a camera or set up a video or whatever that is. I think that's just really, it's fun to be open to ideas. So there is my Tim Talk. I was going to try to avoid it on this one, but
we love
there
Tim
it
Talks.
is. There it is. Yeah, it is just good. Yeah, but that's what and see, as I say, we need to stop, giving people our opinion, yet here I am giving you my opinion. That's just hopefully more advice than opinion. So with that,
Tim Talk.
It's a good Tim Talk. With that, it is nice that I don't have to worry about cleaning up the studio after this live because, well, the studio is already clean and that is a beautiful thing. But next week, we'll be back. We have Stampers Anonymous live, so you're going to get to see, I know the images have been out there, but we're going to get to see all the amazing makes and inspiration and just celebrate the release of that. Hopefully many of you will already have stamps in your hands by then if you ordered them. So with that, I hope you guys, it's been great to kind of get back. It was nice to have a little break, but it's certainly nice to get back on here and connect with all of you. So thanks as always.
My first day jitters are over. My first day, like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh.
He was running around a little bit. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm forgetting something. I'm like, oh, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, it's just like a bicycle.
We just wanted to make sure that the whole camera thing worked and try to give you just as much of a tour of the space as possible. So with that, have a great rest of your day. Have a great rest of your weekend. Really, it's going to be, there's some exciting things coming up now and through the rest of the year. But just as you go out there, remember, if you don't have anything nice to say, find something. Find something nice to say. It's a great way to change everybody's day, including yours. All right?
See you guys.
See you, everyone. Bye.